Hello, we're continuing all about the USA. Chapter 10, we're talking about American space travel. So, this started a few, around 50 years ago, a bit longer than maybe 60 years ago. But continues today. And actually, it's picking up. I think right now, the U.S. government connected with a bunch of private equity firms or private companies that also have interest in space travel, and they're making progress. I was just reading today about a launch in Florida. Um, they're becoming more and more successful with their launches, with their rockets, and they want to commercialize space travel. So making it easier so that not only astronauts can go into space, but people can. I mean, obviously astronauts are people, but normal people can as well. I mean, obviously it's going to cost some money to do it, but it's becoming more and more possible. So it's the next few years are going to be interesting as when it relates to space travel and space development and things like that. In 1958, the U.S. government formed the National Aeronautics and Space Administration to be responsible for the American space program. But the Americans weren't the first people to travel to space. No. In 1961, a Russian, Yuri Gagarin, became the first person to fly around the Earth. His flight took 108 minutes. Later that year, the first American, Alan Shepard, flew into space. And in 1962, NASA sent John Glenn into space to orbit the Earth. So the United States was about a year after Russia. Okay, we were late. Russia beat the U.S. in this aspect. In 1961, President Kennedy challenged NASA to send a man to the moon and return him safely to the Earth. Incredible feat. Incredibly dangerous. I still can't believe it. But anyway, that's what happened. NASA immediately started the Apollo program, and in 1969, so this is 8 years later, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins started their journey to the moon in Apollo 11. And on the 20th of July, 1969, the entire world watched as Neil Armstrong became the first man to walk on the moon, saying the famous words, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." NASA also explored other planets in the solar system. In 1976, a spacecraft called Viking 1 landed on Mars. Another spacecraft called Mars Pathfinder landed there in 1996, so 20 years later. The Pathfinder had a robot vehicle inside called a rover. This robot explored Mars and sent 16,500 pictures back to Earth with 8.5 million measurements. NASA lost contact with the Pathfinder in September of 1997. In the 1980s, the USA started to develop a space shuttle, a reusable space vehicle. Sadly, two space shuttles, the Challenger in 1986 and the Columbia in 2003. I remember when the Columbia crashed. That was tragic. It was really tragic. It was a day of mourning. It's incredible. They exploded and all the astronauts inside them died. Most space projects today are international because they're very expensive. For example, the International Space Station is a laboratory in orbit around the Earth. It's a combined effort between Japan, Russia, the USA, Canada, and Europe. Okay, and that's been fairly successful. Although I think it's with limited time. I don't know when it's going to expire, but it's not a permanent arrangement. They do experiments and test equipment for flights to Mars. The space station is also a good example of international cooperation. Yeah, and they also do quite a few like scientific experiments in the space station because it's a pure environment. It's an environment that doesn't have any viruses from Earth, doesn't have any real dust or any dirt. I remember my uncle. He had a special lens that took incredible photos of light and heat, and that camera was created in the space station because of the environment of the space station. They're able to create things and make things that on Earth it's really, I guess it's not possible. So it was very interesting. So yeah, it is a good example of space station of international cooperation. So yeah, so we are, it shows the latest of the space station, and we're on the brink of new advances in space today, especially pertaining to space travel and increased interest and exploration of Mars. I think that's one of the next frontier. It's the next goal that we want to reach. International, not international travel, space travel. No, space travel and Mars exploration. Anyway, don't forget the activities, and we'll see you next week.